Hey, family. So we are back. Me and
Yay!
my beautiful Y2K are back with y'all. We are excited to be back with y'all. Full transparency, it was Mama's fault that we didn't have an episode last week. I
You're a
was
busy woman.
Yes, ripping and running in DC. Had an awesome time as a part of a women's policy cohort talking about broadband and the digital divide. So,
Mm,
had an awesome time in DC. Met some phenomenal women, and really looking forward to kind of just continuing working in that space. So, but yeah, my fault. Sorry, we weren't with y'all, but a lot has happened, so that gives us even more to
to
talk
talk
about
about,
this week.
yes.
So, Miss my Y2K, how's it going?
Things are going well. Yes, lots of updates, lots of new things in the works. But I'm just excited to be back with y'all, excited to have this new episode coming out. For everyone who's live or who's getting on the live with us, welcome. So excited to be back. Yeah, everything's going well.
Yay, looking cute per usual.
Oh, thanks.
So, we touched on this a little bit earlier in the week, but I want to just jump right in
Mhm.
to first let me, this year's NCAA women's tournament was amazing.
Phenomenal. So good.
Shout out to the Hokies. Who made it
Yes.
the Final Four, and actually we're just one game away
So close. So
um,
close.
from the championship game. So
Yeah.
big shout out to the women Hokies basketball team. But before we even get into the whole Angela Reese and the class list and the Caitlin Clark and all that, I want to first just again give a round of applause to all of the amazing female student athletes.
Yes.
Um, Enough is not said about the work that goes into what you ladies do. Um, we're still trying to bridge that gap in terms of you guys not only getting the shine that you deserve, but also getting the paper that you
Yes.
deserve.
Mhm.
And so I want to just say that first and foremost, because that should have been what the conversations were about following this year's tournament.
Mhm.
But
But
some people had other plans.
yes.
And so, for those of you who maybe have been under a rock and not
Hey, not too much. Some people wanna
not aware,
not locked in, not locked in, just a little bit.
um, LSU won
Mhm.
um, convincingly
Yes.
against Iowa. LSU was the team that no one was giving any shot to going far in the tournament, let alone making it to the championship round
Right.
and winning the championship. And so they're aside from their coach, because we're not going to really focus on the coach,
Mhm.
but their player, Angel Reese, um, was called out using the typical tropes that Black women hear when we do something that our non-melanin counterparts participate in. And so there was just a huge, she was classless,
Right.
because she threw up the, you can't see me,
Right.
ring me, which we have seen many athletes do, male and female.
Right.
You're at the top of your game and you're in this competitive space. But she got called classless, she got called hood, ghetto, and several other things that got even worse than that by grown men, white men, that should have known better. Um, and so I want to get your thoughts on how all that went down
Right.
on the and also on Caitlin Clark
Right.
and her response.
Right.
Um, and then we'll circle back to this whole throwing out of our white of our first lady and her off the cuff suggestion.
Yes.
But what did you, my Y2K, what did you think about, all of that?
So, my sweet mate, my roommate, or one of my roommates, Cass, she is a huge, huge basketball fanatic. She recently got me and my other roommate locked into basketball. So we've been watching on both sides of the tournament for men's and women's. The games, we've been watching people compete. And the women this year, again, like you mentioned previously, have just been insane. And not to say that they're not insane every year, they are, but this year I just think it was a really good opportunity to showcase just how well they play and just how dedicated they are to their crafts, because again, in light of Hokies and the women Hokies who went very, very far in this tournament, it's just the games, the viewership, it all was kind of on display in a positive light that was just so necessary, I think, because again, like, when it comes to women in sports and dominating the sports that they're in, they oftentimes don't get the credit that they're due or their flowers, because again, like, people think that the men's sports are more interesting or they draw in more crowds, when in reality, like, people want to see these women compete at high levels, as you can clearly see by the level of viewership. So I just thought that that was incredible. And again, like you mentioned previously, the tournament was insane. Everybody played their asses off. Like, it was insane. It was incredible to watch. I wish I could be that athletic, but I ain't got that in my bag, unfortunately.
Me and
But
you both. That
it's
wasn't in our
okay.
cards.
It was never for me. I'm not tall enough. It wasn't gonna be for me. But yeah, it's been incredible to watch. And then, of course, leading up to the championship game, you see Caitlin Clark, and she's just dominating, and she's just like, from three, she's hitting all of it. And of course, on Angel Reese's side, she's this girl from Baltimore who ended up transferring to LSU and has just had like a hell of a year. So on both sides, it's just like incredible women who have perfected their craft and worked hard to be where they are. And so, end of the day, like, when watching the game, because of course, the Hokies were really close but didn't quite make it. I really had no preference in like who won.
Mhm.
I was just excited to sit and watch the game, and they played again a hell of a game. And at the end, it's kind of just like, that's just what you expect. Like, Caitlin Clark had been one to talk a lot of shit. She had been one the whole, tournament to be like, oh, shut up, like, you down, I'm up, like, so it's just like heat of the moment type of thing. I'm not a competitor,
And she
sports wise.
balled. Like,
Right,
she earned the right
right.
to talk all the trash she was
Right.
talking. I was
And
here
I'm not
for
even really like a sports type of person, so I've never really had to engage like that with sportsmanship. But just when competing, like, you can talk a little bit of smack, like, oh, I'm up, you're down, I'm losing, I'm winning. So it's kind of just one of those things where I feel like in the moment, everyone should have just been like, oh, okay, she talked her shit and she won, and rightly so, because she had just won a national championship. And instead, I remember, like, because again, we had been watching the game live,
it. Mhm.
and I remember going on Twitter right after, and the first thing that's trending is like, the number one thing is classless. So I'm thinking, I'm like, okay, like, I don't really know what's going on, but I click on it and I'm like, okay, all these people have a lot to say. And of course, by people, I mean white people had a
Right.
lot to say about Angel Reese all of a sudden. Mind you, her and her team have just did, the unthinkable for them. Because again, like you mentioned, everyone the whole year had been like, oh, LSU, they're not going to make it. They're going to get out in this round and that round. And they had just won themselves a national championship. And instead of that being the highlight, and the fact that this, coach and this team full of predominantly Black women had managed to do something unprecedented and set a record for the number of points that they scored.
Right.
So instead of that being the focus, it's like, oh no, like, she's classless. And I think the tweet that was getting like the most like likes and hits at the time was like, classless piece of shit. And it's like, I remember
Mhm.
reading that and being like, wow,
Oh, they
that's
went in.
right. That's like, side eye, because is it really that serious? Is it ever that serious? I understand, again, with sports, people get really heated, people get really in the moment, and that is fine. But in this case, it's like, you are coming at a 20-year-old Black woman
Right.
who has done something that you will never be able to do,
Right.
athletically or otherwise.
Right.
So it was just like, people were going in and going crazy, and, oh, well, this is just unsportsmanlike, and she doesn't even deserve it, and this, that, the third. And it's like, you have to be mindful of the fact that, like, of the space that they're in, and of
Yeah.
the position that she has been in on this team and the role that she's played. And again, a little bit of shit talking has never done anybody any harm. If you can see from
No.
the video, Caitlin Clark didn't even care. She wasn't even bothered.
Right.
Like anyone
Exactly.
hit out the other because again, she knows that as a competitor, you bested me, and
Right.
that's fine. I'll
That
be
that's
back.
what
We'll
you
be
do.
back.
Exactly. And run it back. And what I loved is that Caitlin Clark understood that, LSU, Angel Reese, them winning, it took nothing away from her dominance this season. I
Right,
mean, hands down, she was the top female player this year by
right,
far, right?
right.
I mean, she is on an unprecedented track again. And same thing, LSU and their win was historic. This was the
The
first
first,
win for this school, male or female teams,
right.
in basketball. And so it was so disheartening to hear some of those comments and comments about the really it's that juxtaposition to say, okay, well, Kate, like one comment, Caitlin Clark, her parents are going to be so proud because of how she handled it, right? And even without you saying it, it kind of means that, so Angel Reese's parents are what,
Should be
ashamed?
disappointed or embarrassed. Like,
Right. And so, hearing comments like that, when, like I shared with you earlier this week, what we all as a society and as a people should have been doing was supporting all of these female athletes. We should all be rooting for them to succeed in everything that they do in life, on that court and off that court.
right,
We should want both Angel and Caitlin to get as many bags as they can from as many places as they can, right?
right.
So it shouldn't be or we shouldn't, it's that knee jerk to say, I feel like I got to put this group down
It's always one of
because
those
they don't.
situations where it's like, yeah, it's like a this or that.
Yeah,
Like you two things cannot coincide simultaneously. Like Angel Reese can be an incredible player alongside Caitlin Clark. There doesn't
right,
have to be a one or the other. They both,
right.
again, are doing things that most people, most average people could never even think of.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly. And that's what's mind boggling. And it's not just in sports too. Like, I was happy to see people point out, the fact that this happens anywhere women are occupying spaces and anywhere there's a mix of the type of women who are occupying these spaces, with black and white
right,
women, black and brown, with white women occupying these same spaces, filling these same roles, having these same responsibilities, but our approaches are always going to be different, right?
right.
Because we've got different experiences. We have,
Perceptions, backgrounds.
yeah, and we bring all of that with us into any space that we enter, right? We bring
Right,
who we are, and society wants to say, yes, come as you are, be your authentic self. And then the minute a black or a brown woman shows up as their authentic self,
right. It's a problem.
you know you've you've crossed some arbitrary, you've stepped out of this arbitrary box
Right.
that they
That
continue
we
want to
put you
put
in
you.
to say you can be here, but
Right,
only this much.
right,
You can show you who you are, but only by this much.
this much, you know you go this much, we got a
Yes.
problem.
And
you
that's
know
why I just have so much respect for Angel Reese because she is taking this in stride.
right.
She is laughing at the haters and she really just doesn't care. And I mean, to be completely honest with you, I don't know who would because, again, as someone who has just won a national championship, what do you think I'm going to feel like from you talking about, oh, you classes, da 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 da? I have a
Right.
ring on the way.
Yeah.
So
And
it's
they,
like I can't be bothered.
both her and Caitlin, I think, understand the bigger picture, right? They both know what's waiting for them beyond
Right.
college basketball, right?
Hmm.
They both know the hurdles that the WNBA is still experiencing, right? So that they can come on par with their male counterparts. Neither one of them are under the misconception that that's going to be any different from either one of them because of the color of their skin. They
Right.
understand that landscape doesn't change. We both can ball out, as much as we want, but going into the WNBA is still going to be a feat that, again, is not going to pay us, what
The
we're worth.
same.
pay us our value.
Mm-hmm.
The investments into the WNBA are still lagging behind that of the NBA. Now it has moved, don't get me wrong. There's been a lot of progress, but there's still a lot to be done. And so, again, I commend both of them, all of these teams, all of these squads. And there was a local sports announcer, and I think his name was like Mike. I think it may not be Mike. If it's not, I apologize, Mike.
Sorry, Mike.
Um, but he had white guy, he had one of the best takes. And he kind of just clapped back to again to say, this is not even what we should be talking about.
Right,
We shouldn't be upset with Angel Reese for what she did any more than we, should have, or if anybody who felt some kind of way about Caitlyn talking track. And again, if you on the receiving end of it, because you lost, because you taking that L, right?
right.
Psh, that's part of the game. Don't
Mm-hmm.
play the sport. Don't
Right.
play, don't participate if you can't take that, right? I'm, I remember basketball in school. It sucks to lose,
Mm-hmm.
period. It sucks to lose. It sucks to lose the promotion. It sucks to lose, out on the raise that you thought you were going to get. Like, it sucks not to achieve something that you have worked so hard for. And you
Right,
just got outbested by somebody who that particular day, that particular time, did it just a little bit better than you did, you
right.
know. But again, we don't have to discount, one group or discount one person, especially as women. Like, I hate seeing this, you know, amongst ourselves as women.
Mm-hmm.
There's such a small box and circle they want to keep us in to begin with. Like, we can't create smaller boxes within the box that
Right.
females are already called to exist in.
Mm-hmm.
We gotta stop that. So moving on a little bit to First Lady Jill Biden, bless her heart. Love Jill. Love
Mm-hmm.
Jill.
I'm not.
Um,
I'm not gonna say too much.
well, I mean, she's done some really amazing things. She's championed the cancer moon shoot, addressing issues with cancer and seeing as how that multiple cancers have impacted our family.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I do commend her for that work. But this kumbaya, let's have the winners and the losers in the White House. What you think about that,
Insane.
Y2K?
First of all, we all know that if the shoe was on the other foot, and if Iowa had won the championship, LSU won't get no invite to the White House. That's one. And for two, I just think again, it's like we have never, I don't think, been the type of country to hand out participatory awards to the losing teams. When has that ever been a thing? You
Not
either
in the
win or you
competitive
go
front,
home.
not on this scale. Now, of course,
Right.
they got little leaguers running around here, yeah, getting all kind of little participation
But
trophy for the
again, those
little
are for
kids.
children.
Right, exactly,
In our
kids.
grown ages, nobody, you win or you go home on
Right,
the bus or on the plane wherever you came from. Those are the options. They
right.
don't send the people who win the Super Bowl. Oh well, you and the losers, y'all come visit. No, like because again,
Right.
that comes with the sport and comes with the competitiveness to be like the best of the best get an invite or the best of this particular genre or sport or whatever the case may be. They get these extra novelties. It
Yeah,
makes absolutely no sense, and I'm confused as to even what her thought process was to be like, oh well, we're just gonna have everybody. No,
right.
no,
Like,
let's
I'm
not. Why would you do that?
that was my question. Like, Jill, boo, girl, w before you let that come out your mouth, what was rolling through your head? And I think some of it
White.
was exactly, well, yes, I think it was exactly what you said.
Sorry,
We
like
feel horrible. And again, Caitlin Clark has asked for nobody, or the team or the coach or Iowa period, has asked for anybody
to give them handouts, to give
to
them
come to their defense.
right,
You don't see them running around here playing the victims. You don't see them running around here saying, yeah, we would love. No, look, y'all want to come to the White House, book a tour. It's open. Y'all can make it a girls' trip,
y'all can
or
come here like
something
everybody else come here.
this summer. But I agree. Those, you know, and having championship teams
Mm-hmm.
come to the White House has been just a part of our larger national competitive sports,
Right.
from college to the professional levels. And again, you have never, since that started to become a thing, someone even hear someone throw that out there as a possibility to consider, that we want the, the losing team played so well, you
So we
know,
might as well just have all like
you
no,
know,
they didn't play well enough.
no, it would have made more sense to me if she had said, "I think all of the Elite Eight should come to the White House
But even that is kind of
and
like
have a
once
special luncheon." Hear me out, and have a special luncheon for these women, separate from LSU's solo trip to
that's
the White
just too
House.
much. At that point, it don't even make no
Well,
sense.
I'm just saying, since she want to open up the White House to people, I'm offering her
But in
some
that case, just
suggestions.
open it up to everybody. At that point, where is everybody from? Like, let's just have it. Like, no, like,
Nah,
let's.
nah. I mean, I'm just saying, like, if it's a meet in the middle, because again, all of those teams, did
Right,
awesome,
right,
and
and
I
of
think, yeah,
course that's true because again, they're playing at a level that is just like ridiculous.
hmm
But again, historically, the whole playoff team, the whole hunt, everybody in the hunt can't come to the playoffs. Like that's just not how that works.
I
Oh
don't
well, sorry, we feel bad. Or let's just have everybody come. Like no, that's not how that works. You play, you compete. If you win, you keep going. If you lose, you go home. So
you're
they
right.
played, they competed. LSU won. They get to go to the White House. I think again, maybe if I were to try and play devil's advocate for poor Jill, I'd say, oh, she was trying to ease the tensions that have kind of arose from all this back and forth and Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark and all this stuff. She was trying to smooth things over with everybody. But in the
Maybe.
day, the players themselves don't care. The only people who
No.
care are the people who aren't playing the game. They didn't get this far.
Right. Yeah.
So
And you're right. Give her the benefit of the doubt. And maybe that's what she was thinking, is that there's all of this kind of brouhaha. Both of these teams and both of the leaders of these teams are phenomenal young women. And maybe it'll have everyone else change their tune
right.
and what they're saying if I step up. So let's give her the benefit of the doubt. Because I mean, again, it was just so, and to be honest, I did not see that coming. I'm like you, like I watched the game. I'm expecting just to go on social media and hear this was historic. Oh my God,
Right.
this is one of the best tournaments we had seen. Da 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 da. And to see that hashtag trending, and then to see what it was trending about. Like I said, it was just again another missed opportunity yet again for America.
To
Um,
show up, and they
right,
did.
to show up, to show that we
We've
got
come as
we
far as we
to
say
show
that
that
we have.
we are not
Right.
classless,
Right.
right? But fail, big F. And so, we'll
Take that
I'm
L along with the rest of them and then keep it pushing,
yeah, I
I
mean the,
guess.
the L's are stacking up. The L's are
Hallelujah.
stacking up.
Yes.
And speaking of the biggest L of this country, is
Oh,
its racist um, history, uh, that uh, I don't think in my lifetime, your lifetime, 2, 3 lifetimes after yours, if the planet is even still here, I don't see that shifting. But as a parent, what you would want to see is that spaces like our college campuses be better equipped to address those things that come up and show themselves and prove themselves to be racist.
right.
That is what I would expect. Same thing like in our workplaces. In society, that beast is never going to go away.
Right.
But in schools, in workplaces, in other smaller pockets of society where there should be more voices saying this is unacceptable, and not only saying that it is unacceptable, but there are consequences for that type of behavior.
Right.
And so, um, I know, like I said, we didn't get a chance to talk last week, but there was something that happened like the week prior, to like I think like maybe a day or two after our first episode.
Yes. Yep.
Um, and so tell folks what happened, and then you even said there's been some stuff even since then. So what is going on at Virginia Tech? The women's basketball team had just had a phenomenal season, but there are some issues on that campus.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. Because again, we can't have too much. There's always got to be something. But recently, just on campus, there's been a lot of racial injustice and a lot of very blatant racism, because of course we're always used to the less or more discreet versions of racism, the microaggressions and the looks and the I don't know, and you don't look like you're supposed to be here, those types of things. But recently it has just been outright, to where it's just like at the forefront of our it's in our faces, and the university has just continuously failed to actually act upon what's going on in a manner that is active
Hmm.
and in need or in motion towards change.
Hmm.
So one of the members who kind of runs and is overseeing diversity and inclusion here at Tech, diversity, equity, and inclusion, excuse me, had some random person write on his door just nigger. Um, and cross out, diversity, equity, and inclusion, which is obviously like what he kind of oversees and looks over and takes care of. Um, and he posted about it obviously and received a lot of support from different people, and my friends and just people around campus who were like, this is unacceptable, and everyone of course was tagging Virginia Tech and what are you guys going to do, what's your response, and it's been radio silence, like, and it's just become one of those things where you see the posts like, oh, well, Virginia Tech doesn't, we condemn this sort of behavior and we do not support XYZ and racism, discrimination, da 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 da. But it's like, where is the action?
Right,
Because as we know, actions are going to always speak louder than words,
right,
which we can clearly see based on the actions of some of the people on this campus who feel like it's okay and it's justified to
right,
say certain things, to do certain things, to behave in a certain manner that is just abominable,
right,
especially in 2022, in this generation where I'm so sorry, but to be Gen Z and be racist is just like, I'm so sorry. That just is like it'll never make sense to me. To be any sort of racist in any sort of generation, obviously, is just like, what's wrong with you. But in generations where that's what that's what you see, that's at the forefront, you know,
right. I mean,
it's a completely
your
different, you
generation
know,
and the generations that have come after have grown up in some of the more, I mean, this country has been diverse for such a long period of time. Like
right,
I would see if we were talking about again the generations who grew up where segregation was still a thing,
right.
right? The generations who were a part of the first round of kind of integration, right?
Right. Or even the people whose parents were a part of that generation, or who
Right,
grandparents were a part of that generation. That just gives you a completely different perspective and outlook and lens on the country. But to
right,
be in this generation where all you have known and seen repeatedly, historically around you is inclusion and equity and people, black and brown and everyone in between, being able to be represented in a way that's positive and
right,
in a way that supports and highlights growth, change, all those things. It's like you have
right.
no, I mean, they don't have an excuse either, but you have
Yeah,
even less of an excuse to turn hate and push that out towards people that again have done nothing to you. That man
right.
who is running and overseeing, diversity, equity, and inclusion here on campus, he's not bothering nobody.
Right. And the work that he's doing, again, is not about, and I wish people would correct their talking points when we even think about diversity, equity, and inclusion, right? It is not, again, meant to say we want to take away and or exclude anyone, right?
Right.
Diversity, equity, and inclusion is actually about saying, hey, if we think about principles that align with those three things, everyone is actually going to benefit.
Right.
The folks who have traditionally been in power and those who we want to see come into places and position of more authority and more power, so that it is shared, it's a shared, you know,
Experience.
exactly.
Right.
And that's what I hate. And then the fact that the university, as you put it, and as you said, is not taking hard, tangible action, because
And
that
again,
just
yeah,
emboldens those kids.
of course. And my thing is that like I thought to be like, okay, well, what would I want to see, or what could Virginia Tech do to show more action and to show and that they genuinely wholeheartedly do not align with what it is that we're seeing. And it's like the statements, the posts is simply not enough. Like we need an investigation. We need to figure, you need to like actually crack down on these things and be like, okay, yes, we say that we condemn it and we say that we're against it and we say that we don't believe in this, that, the third. But here's how we're going to prove it to you all, everyone on campus, not even just the Black people on this campus, but to everyone, because who wants to be in an environment where no one, certain people don't feel safe or certain people don't feel represented?
Right. Or welcome. In a
Right.
place, again, every kid on that campus, a parent has cut a check, somebody somewhere has cut a check, and a big check, for all of those kids to be on that campus to get
Right.
an education.
Right.
And to the people who would kind of, come back and say, well, that's why it's better for, our kids not to go to predominantly white institutions.
Right.
And I call bull on that. Any kid, black, white, brown, pink, yellow, polka dot, green, whatever, should be able to go to school wherever they so choose, wherever their parents can afford, whatever scholarships, that may permit them to attend a school. If they have the grades, if they've got, if they filled out an application and got a letter back saying you've been accepted,
Right.
then they should be able to attend. And I don't, I, the answer to this problem is not relegated to saying, well, all of our kids just need to go to HBCUs or to institutions that are predominantly Black.
Right.
Um, because those institutions in and of themselves have their own set of issues that
Right.
sometimes are not conducive to learning and not conducive to, again, the growth. They also can be places where there's safety concerns,
Right.
whether that's, thinking about their sexual assaults are high on most campuses, right? So there's all these other factors that as a parent, again, no parent wants to send their kid to school, any school, elementary, high school, college, and again, not, or have concerns that, again, that your child is not going to be treated appropriately,
Right.
um, or that those issues won't be addressed, and I hope that that young man's parents are engaged, or at least attempting to get engaged with the school, because I know that's what I would be doing. I would probably have been in someone's office by now and waiting till somebody is available to see me.
Hmm.
Um, because and tech is not, by itself. Again, this happens on many of our,
Lots of PWI campuses. Yes.
exactly. And like you said, we are just living in a day and time where, yes, we know racism, we're not going to be able to get rid of it in society as a whole. But there are places where leadership should be able to address it and
Right.
to weed it out and let people know, if those
It's
are
not
truly,
acceptable here.
yeah, if those are your beliefs, right? This is not where you want to be.
Right.
I'm sure there's some school somewhere you can find that when we say
That is more
PW,
tailored and suited to your, ideologies.
yes, and when we say PWI, we mean PWI. And the ones who are not white who are here are a little bit more inclined, again, they're going to stay in the boxes that we want them to be in and then we won't have no problems, right? It's sad, but those institutions, exist. And I say, you know what? If that's what you feel, go for it. You know, I am never one to want to argue with a racist individual, with a sexist, any ist individual.
I like arguing just because I think that I just can't help myself. Like I'm so sorry. It because it just blows my mind, and they're genuinely wholeheartedly. It's just no reason to think that way, for any reason. Like
That's
I
true.
argue just so I can prove a point. To be like you're arguing for the sake of absolutely nothing. You're arguing to basically claim I dislike these group of people because dot dot dot,
Right.
and
She's told
that's
my
just
child,
embarrassing.
when she gets older, you'll put that energy elsewhere.
Hopefully, yeah, something more productive than just
As you get
arguing
older,
with racists. But
yeah, you like, yeah, okay,
it's I think again just because from a generational lens, it
right,
it just holistically just uh like it's not gonna make sense for me. Sorry.
exactly. And family, that's why she and I want to hop on here on Wednesdays, right? Because um her, the Y2K generation, the Gen Z, the whatever's coming after, I forget the rest of them. I think it's at least one or two more after you. Um
Yes.
and beyond Gen Z, I kind of get lost with the rest of them. Um but you know, y'all's demographic is a demographic that is growing, and it is y'all's demographic that will one day be in those positions of leadership, and it's y'all's demographic that is starting to show up and show out in elections and at the polls and being vocal in what you guys are not going to tolerate and put up with. And I commend the fearlessness of y'all's generation and the younger generations. Because my generation and definitely the ones before me, you know, it's complex in terms of how far we can maybe put ourselves out there, right?
There's a certain level of like placativeness to be like, okay,
Yeah.
well, we got this far. We just gonna chill here for a second, and
Yeah.
we'll see. And I think my generation is more just like, no, or y'all did get this far. Y'all have gotten us to this point, and we're so grateful. But we got places further ahead that we need to be,
Yes.
and we got to make that shake somehow. And
Yeah.
it's just like a lack of acceptiveness towards BS. Like we're just not going for that. Sorry.
Yeah.
Like, and
But that's
in
that's
some
the beauty
cases,
of it.
yeah.
I
And in
mean,
some
that
cases,
that's
I
the
think,
beauty of it.
yeah. And in some cases, I definitely think that like our combativeness can sometimes lean more towards being problematic, you know, because we're just so ready to, be up in arms and so ready to just go and fight
Yeah.
that, we may not be that receptive to just hearing and listening and taking things in.
Right.
But I think that we definitely have some good some good foundations to be like this
Yes.
is what we hope to stand for.
Right. And I think that is what you all need from our generation, right? It's those tools of saying, how do we want y'all to fight. We want you to fight smart, right? And we want you to say, hey, there are new tools and new ways and new levers that you all can pull that previous generations didn't have access to, right? They're going to continue to move the goalpost. There's never going to become a time, I think, when the fight comes
Ends.
to exactly,
Yeah.
because while we as Black people built physically the country,
Yeah.
right? But we didn't build the systems that run it,
Right.
right? So they understood to say, okay, well, yes, we've enslaved, an entire group of people to build, a country for us, right? But under no terms do we ever want them to be in control of what happens in the country?
Right.
You know, and I think that's going to always be, um, I think that's where our battle lies, is to say, this is the system that we have now. 2 years from now, 5 years from now, 10 years, it may be a completely different system. And history has shown us that that is typically how the playbook plays out, right? From Reconstruction to Jim Crow to mass incarceration to redlining to just the complete destruction of Black communities who were doing well, contributing to society, again,
Yes.
these centers of Black excellence, and just get torn down when they reach, a
When they
level.
go too far, again, from the
Right,
box that we're placed in, when we tip outside of that line,
right.
that's when you have, things like
Yeah,
Tulsa, Oklahoma.
right.
And
You know, and the scary thing, and two things, that, before we, end tonight, and they're both really connected to each other. And that is us making sure that from generation to generation that we understand that we all have and pass along that historical context, right? We can never afford to not know that the past and
true.
and all the bits of it.
Right.
Which is why, regardless of what they do in these schools and stripping away certain books and stripping away certain curriculums, us as a community must ensure that that history is not lost.
Right.
Right? They were never really teaching it fully anyway.
Anyway, yeah, of course.
So it is totally on us, again, as a community, not even just us as parents, but it definitely starts in our homes, but us as a community, to say we are going to make sure that we understand our history, and not just the history of when we hit these shores, but the history of what and who we were in our own land, right?
Hmm.
The ancestral lands, and understanding to use that, then to say, now we can understand how to navigate it. Because again, their playbook has pretty much been the same. They haven't changed or made
Changed much.
something new.
Right.
you know
Right.
I think, like you said, we just sometimes get complacent, right? We we stop figuring out how to center what's important for us as a
Yes.
community, right? Our attention is so divided
Hmm.
on
Some
nonsense.
nonsense and then some things that are actually important, but they don't get the motion that they need because again, half of that attention is going towards things that don't even matter.
Yeah,
And I think it's like we talk about it often, just how like knowledge genuinely is power, especially in a time where it's literally it's like right here. It's at the tip of your fingertips. You just have to look for it. You just have to want to know
right.
more
Yeah,
about where you came from, about the work it took to get to where we are, and knowing that it's not even really that far. We haven't even
right.
really made that much progress,
No,
realistically.
no, because as progress is made, it gets chipped away,
Right.
you
So
know?
it's like to know that, like, yes, we've come far. Yes, there have been lots and a number, hundreds, thousands of sacrifices made to get us to this point. However, we still have a lot of work to do, a lot of work to do.
Yeah,
And in dividing our attention between things that genuinely wholeheartedly don't matter, it's like I told you before, and jokingly, just like we have not had a serious conversation since the civil rights movement. Like, what are we talking about? What's
yeah,
like, what are the conversations looking like? And it's focused sometimes on just nonsensical stuff that in
yeah,
reality makes no difference
yeah,
in our struggle. It makes no difference in the things that we want to see changed.
right. And two things, right? So, A, like you said, like the conversations that we are having, can we can't continue to talk about what is,
Right.
right? And the problem and the issues and the challenges. Obviously, we are an extremely capable race of people.
Absolutely.
So we
Yep.
should be coming together as a whole saying, here's what we are going to do,
Right.
period. This, and this. And we need everybody to get on board, with this.
Yeah, and I think the problem in lies is that everybody wants different things.
True.
We as a people cannot agree on what we feel like we need, right?
True.
And then of course, we have external problems, we got internal problems, and
Yes.
we've talked about this before, me and you, just how the internal external, like, it's like, which one do we do, like, what do we focus on? And the reality of it is that we have to kind of play both fronts. We have
Right.
to work on the things that are happening to us, and then we have to work on the things that we are doing to each other.
Yes. That part. And yeah, I remember, yeah, that was a few years ago when we were, talking, and you I forgot even how we got on the subject. And again, I think there are, like you said, the internal and the external, and we are so far behind the proverbial eight ball on so many fronts. And that's why we can't afford to only focus on the external or only
Right.
focus on the internal.
Right.
um because by the time you fix what's happening to you externally,
Now
in
there's like 20 more things that are happening internally.
Exactly, and it just remains fragmented, which is kind
Right.
of, what we have. It's a fragmented sense of who we are. And again, and that was by design.
Right.
None of this that we're, saying is meant to be, make it trivial or make it sound like this is even
Accusatory.
easy work, right?
Right.
Because it's not. Um, the last time we had our communities galvanized, they killed every one of the leaders that we had,
Right.
right? And so that's not to be taken lightly when we think about the next generation of leaders, you know, and the risk that comes with it. But I want to remind and hopefully encourage people, this is how you know that we're semi on a right front, right? And where the power lies. If, like you said, if knowledge did not equate to power, they could care less what is happening in these textbooks and
Right.
in our schools.
Yep.
If knowledge was truly not power, they wouldn't care. They wouldn't care. I mean, the education system is already in shambles. What difference does it make if it's books in the libraries talking about Rosa Parks,
Right.
right?
Exactly.
They wouldn't care, but they
But they
understand
didn't.
how
Yep.
powerful that is.
Hmm.
And not just for our kids to learn it, they know how powerful it is for other kids to see, dang,
This is what happened in this country.
yeah. And now I have a choice to decide, do I want to continue to be a part of continuing that same kind of, you know, oppression and separation and division, right? Because now you've given me some knowledge. I can make a better decision. Having knowledge allows us to make better informed decisions, and
Right.
that's in everything in life. So that's one. Voting. Every election, especially the big presidential elections, you hear it over and over again. My vote doesn't matter. Vote doesn't count.
Right.
If it didn't, do you honestly think they would work as hard as they do to keep us from voting?
Right.
Every time a responsible legislation comes into power in a state or in a
Hmm.
county, right? They put things in place to
The
say,
first thing they do is change districts and switch things
right,
around and make things more difficult.
exactly. Then that group cycles out, and maybe you get another one in there and they're a little bit more sane. So they put protections in there to say, well, if you want to change the district maps, you have to have X, Y, and Z. You have to
Right.
have community approval. And again, you gotta have to have a vote for it, right?
Hmm.
There's no way they would go through those hurdles
Hmm. If our vote did not matter
if
and
our
it
vote
made
did.
no difference.
Thank you. And we have got to stop telling that lie to ourselves. They will continue to make it difficult.
Yes.
They will continue to put up as many roadblocks as they can.
Because they know.
Right. What we cannot afford to do is to say, well, I jumped through three of the roadblocks, but I'm not jumping through them last two. Like we can't do that. Jump through any and every hoop that they put in front of us when it comes to vote. When it comes to, our brothers and sisters who have felonies, right? Got a family full of them. In your states, where like here, where they say, well, we're not going to make it automatic. You're going to have to do an application. Do the application.
Right.
Go to whatever website they're saying you go to, pull whatever documents that they need, asking you to put together. Do the work. Like we can't be lazy when it comes to what we know we can do to change things. Running for office, local level offices, participating on your city councils, understanding what pieces of legislation are out there
That
and
affect
how
us.
they yeah, and how they're going to impact you. Like I challenge everybody. Congress is getting ready to break for the summer, right? All of our state legislators and our senators are going to be in at home, in their states and or in their districts. To make them move on legislation or move on an issue that's important to you, you got to show up. They need to see you. Because the reason that they'll change a map, right? The reason that they will redistrict a community is because the white people in the community showed up and said, we don't want this.
Right.
We had way too many minorities that showed up and voted in this district, and they flipped our district. That happened right here in Virginia with the 7th district in Virginia.
Yep.
That is exactly what happened. Abigail Spanberger came in here, flipped a district that had been red for an extremely long time, turned it blue, was hanging and holding on to the district. And when the new governorship and leadership came into place, they redistricted. And a lot of that had to do with the people who showed up in the surrounding districts who said, we don't really want that. We would like to reclaim this district. So since we know where those votes are coming from, let's just move those out of the 7th district.
Right.
Let's lump them with another district that it's already uh, a blue district, right? That's how this game works. But because we didn't show up, right? We didn't push back on it. We didn't figure out to say, hey, look, they're about to do some redistricting here. I need to go and show up. I need to see what's happening on my county board, right? See what's happening on our school boards. Our school boards, these are elected officials, right?
Yes.
You need to know what they're doing. Your DAs, your county clerks, your judges, they're in off cycles that may or may not be connected with the big national races. And we have got to make sure that we are informed and that we are showing up. And that's what I'm saying. That's why I love y'all's generation, because y'all are slowly but surely getting it. And to say, hey, we're going to, if I'm finally eligible to vote, and I'm going to vote. And if I'm able to run, I'm going to run. Right.
Yes.
They make it seem like, here, case in point, and this should hopefully anybody who's maybe been thinking about running for office or participating again in government in any kind of way, think about this. Marjorie Taylor Greene is an idiot. She's imbecile. Something ain't right, put it that way. She could be highly intelligent for all I know. However, none of that has been on display. And we have many elected officials that aren't even college educated, but they would have us believe, you know, that you got to have all those things.
Right.
And I'm here to tell any and everybody, no, Most of the requirements and eligibility that it comes to run is that do you live where you say you trying to
To
run?
live, and are you the age that you need to be?
Exactly. Do you meet the age limit requirement? Are you a U.S. citizen? Uh, that's about it.
Right,
Like seriously, people, that is about it. So when we see stuff that's broke, when we see stuff that needs to be fixed, maybe we don't have to sit around and wait for somebody else to fix it. Participate on a council, become appointed, and even if it's saying, hey, it's a bunch of people who maybe I don't agree with from a political, viewpoint or whatnot, we still need to be in the room, right?
right.
We still need to. There's nothing wrong with a
Have
little
a
bit of
seat at the
debate.
table, you know?
Yes, have a seat at the table. And the only time we should relinquish that seat is when we're going now to say, thank you, appreciate it. I got everything I needed from y'all's table, and now I'm going to go build my own. And I invite you to come now and sit at my table,
Right,
right? So, that's the thing. Like we run around here not coming to the table, leaving the table too soon, and not building enough of our own tables,
right.
quite frankly. So that's my soapbox, right? That's my call to action for everybody is to I really want us to think about getting better engaged. I want us to follow the lead of these Y2Ks and these Gen Zs. I want us to follow their lead and step out and say, hey, look, yeah, we're not going for that either, you know, and
Period.
we may let them be up front, but trust and believe that these older generations, we behind them, right? We standing with them, behind them, because y'all should lead, right? Our time is going to be coming to an end. We should be standing behind y'all, pushing y'all forward, in society. I'm pushing you guys forward in being the change that we know we all need, right? And it's going to make life better for everybody. Like
Right.
that's what I want to do. I want to be a pusher. I want to be a pusher.
Period. That can have a little bit of a negative connotation, but that's neither here nor there.
Neither here nor there. Depends on what you're pushing. So I want to be a pusher of people, right? I want to be
Okay.
a pusher of information. I want to be a pusher of policy. I want
Her.
to be a pusher for mental health and well being. I want to be a
Yes.
pusher for authenticity. I want to be a pusher for all things that are going to allow us to show up fully, safely, intact, mentally well, and sound in every space that we're meant to be in. That's what I want to do, and that's what I want to push people to do. That's what I'm going to continue to push you to do. Um, as long as I've got breath and a drink or two in my hand, I will be you. Until I'm no longer here, and I want to encourage my generation to also become pushers, right? Push not just push our kids, you know, push the people around us, push other young people that you know and that you get to interact with. And if you're a millennial, or even, um, and you don't spend time with young people, shame on you.
Damn.
Shame on you. Um,
You're just integrated, mom.
I'm not talking about people who are introverted. They not hanging out with anybody. I'm talking about the people who were like, I don't fool with them young people, right? We gotta we gotta strip ourselves of that thinking. I'm talking to my generation now and the generation even before me. Like we have to get out of that. This is all about intergenerations, right? We have things that we've done, been through, experience that we can share and lay and pour into the next generations. And we can't do that effectively if we're not talking to y'all, right? If we're not coming into y'all spaces and asking y'all what's going on and asking, well, what you think about this and how would you handle that? Like all of that is so important. And so yeah, I mean, I'm calling my generation out because I hear a lot of the people who's like, nah, I don't mess with young people like that, you know. And I'm not saying you gotta be out here doing young people things, whatever that means to you, you know. But we should get to know them, right?
Yes,
We should get to know them and spend time with them,
right.
and not completely write them off as this generation who's going to be stuck on their phones and be completely lost if technology goes away.
There
Um,
should be some sort of positive relationship there,
there you
essentially.
go. Yes, and that's what it's about. Positive, intergenerational, um, sharing, learning, supporting the whole nine, and we all need it. And to be quite honest, just so y'all know, it actually helps keeps us young, right? It keeps us at least young at heart, okay? To be able to see the
Yes.
world through these younger
And young
eyes.
in the face too. Don't forget. Yep. Yep.
But seeing the world through their eyes is truly a beautiful thing. And like I said, I'm speaking from experience. And so if you haven't, or it's not something you do often, find a boys and girls club, find a YMCA, connect with a group at one of your local high schools or something. There are tons of youth groups out there and youth organizations that are always looking for volunteers, and it's an awesome opportunity again to connect with other people, to other young people, right? So that what we know, this knowledge that we have, is not lost. So that is my 2 cents. What's your final thoughts, Y2K?
Now you 8. You need to step it up. You need to go into government. I don't know. Like, what are you doing?
My tongue, once I work on my tongue a little bit,
What,
um,
like your cousin?
yeah,
Oh.
I'll get into one of them spaces, Kiana, and may end up getting locked up. Um,
Anyway.
I shouldn't, right? I shouldn't, because I mean, when you think about what's been happening these last 2-3 years, I should be fine,
Right.
but I am going.
Well, it's food for thought. Maybe
I'm
price
gonna put that.
2040 or something like that.
I'm gonna put that up here. But your mother is definitely going to be looking at some um, local opportunities to engage with legislators, not become one myself, but I will be at the fourth district, our new congresswoman. I will be reaching out to meet with her in her office or someone from her staff
Period.
when they break this summer. So that is definitely coming, because I don't like to ask people or issue some call to action if it's not something I'm willing to do myself. I vote. I pay attention to what's happening with these bills and or not happening with bills. Um, Anybody who don't know how to go about that and you want to go about it, hit us up and let us know. I'm happy to send you where you can go to get that kind of information and ways that you can connect. But yes, trust and believe. I'm not going to ask anybody to do something that I am not willing to do. And so
Period.
definitely, um, definitely know that's coming.
Yeah. Those are my thoughts. That's it. You hear everything. I mean, dang, I couldn't even. All I could just do is say per. Period. Yep. Yes. Absolutely. Yeah.
Love it. Love it. See, great minds. Great minds. What more can we say? Well, family, that wraps another episode of the Millennial Mom and her Y2K.
Episode number
We
2.
will be back with you again next Wednesday, same place, same time, same channel. Talking, just so that you guys know, so April is Sexual Assault Awareness Month. So we'll also be making sure that we take some time out in some of the episodes coming up for this month, and shining a light on that issue, that is extremely pervasive, especially in or for African American women and girls. So we're going to talk a little bit about that next episode. So make sure that you come back and watch, or come back and listen to the streams on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify, because we'll definitely be talking about that, and talking a little bit more about, again, our wellness, because this is also Minority Health Month. And so I want to dig a little bit into, you know, Black women and our journey and our struggles with health, and what that means to each of us. And so, really, again, we got some exciting shows coming up, and can't wait to get back with y'all next week.
Yes.
Yes.
You hit everything. I don't know what else to say, but we'll see y'all. I'll see y'all. She'll see y'all.
There you go. We
There
see
you
you,
go.
and we out.
Bye.